All right, Huskies, let's see what happens in Chapter 8, Back to Life. Jack clung to Annie. Dianthesis cleared the driveway of the cloisters and began to run with ease down the street. His long strides were so light and graceful, Jack could hardly feel him moving. As the unicorn ran, he held his head high. His long spiraled horn pierced the raging storm, seeming to calm the winds and snow. Jack realized he could feel his fingers and toes again. His whole body began to feel warm. Dianthus headed down the deserted parkway along the waterfront, past an empty bridge. The bridge's towers and cables formed a silver arc over a wide river. White caps swept across the water's surface. As the unicorn trotted past the river, the water became still. Dianthus left the riverside and headed down the city street. The wind whistled between tall buildings, blowing the snow into great drifts. But the unicorn's horn turned the howling wind into a soft breeze. The wind blowing snow became floating star-shaped flakes, like the snowflakes on a Christmas card. As the unicorn trotted down the street, snowbound taxis and streetcars started moving again. Lights came on in the cafes and jazz clubs. Jack heard happy music coming from inside. With a calm, steady trot, the unicorn pranced on through the city. As he moved past an old mansion, broken down tenements, and shabby hotels, people peeked out of the doorways and windows to see why the sounds of the storm had died away. When they caught sight of Dianthesis, with his horn shining in the windless air, they broke into joyful smiles. Church bells started ringing through the white silence. Finally, Dianthesis came to a stone wall bordering Central Park. He jumped over the wall and landed knee-deep in a heap of snow. The unicorn leapt effortlessly out of the drift and cantered over a field and down a slope. Slowly the clouds parted and light from the setting sun poured down. "Hot corn," a peddler shouted, plowing his pushcart through the snow. "Roasted chestnuts," shouted another. The good smells of corn and nuts filled the air. And look at them. Of the park. The unicorn trotted past the Belvedere Castle. Bill Perkins stood outside, staring up at the clear blue sky. "Hey, Mr. Perkins, the monster storm's not coming," shouted Annie. The weatherman saw Jack and Annie on the back of the white unicorn, and his jaw dropped. Then he smiled and waved. Jack and Annie rode on. When they passed the statue of the winged angel, Jack thought he saw her move her great wings. "Did you see that?" he cried. "Yes," said Annie. When they passed the statue of Balto, Jack heard the sled dog bark. When they rode past the merry-go-round, Jack heard the chorus of neighs and whinnies, accompanied by lively carousel music. Dianthesis pranced down the shimmering pathway. He leapt over a stone wall and cantered over another field. The unicorn's horn glistened and the snowy field reflected gold and copper light. Not until the unicorn came to the tree that held the treehouse did he stop. Annie hugged the unicorn's long, graceful neck. Thank you, she whispered and kissed him. "Yeah, wow," breathed Jack. Annie looked at Jack over her shoulder. "What now?" she asked. "I guess we climb off," said Jack. "But then what?" Annie asked sadly. "Where does he go?" "That's a good question," said Jack. "He comes with us, of course," someone said. Jack and Annie gasped. Baylor and Grinda slunk out from behind the tree. Baylor carried the black rope. Jack was stunned. How did you get here so fast?" he asked. "We took the A train," said Baylor. "'Tis actually a bit faster than riding a unicorn." The boy laughed meanly. "Shut up, Baylor," said Grinda. Then she turned to Jack and Annie. "I am glad you had a happy little ride, but you can say goodbye to Dianthesis now. We will take him from here." "No, you won't," said Annie. "Stay away from us," said Jack. "Come on, Dianthesis, let's go," said Annie. Before Dianthesis could move, Grinda rushed forward and grabbed his collar with her both hands. The unicorn snorted and shook his head. Grinda clung fiercely to the collar. "Get the rope over the head, Baylor," she shouted. "Now!" Baylor looped the black rope into a noose around. The unicorn twisted and turned his head. Jack kicked at Baylor. "Stop," he yelled. "Get away from us." Jack felt stupid just yelling and kicking, but he didn't know what else to do. As Baylor and Grinda struggled to get the noose around the unicorn's neck, Annie pointed at them. In a loud voice, she shouted, "Fowl of the air, appear now! Alka, 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 Mir!" The black rope fell to the snow. Baylor and Grinda started to spin around. They spun like two spinning tops. As they spun, they grew smaller and smaller. Jack saw a blur of colors, gray, browns, green, and white, and a dash of orange and a dash of yellow. The spinning slowly came to a stop. The two scary teenagers were gone. In their place were two small mallard ducks. Whoa! Chapter 10, it's called It's Them. Bye, Huskies. Have a great weekend.